public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients.
Ted Miller was a typical hot rodder, a boy who had picked up an old car and with very little money, but with a lot of hard work and ingenuity, had turned it into a hot rod that could beat most of the expensive European sports jobs. Ted's Roadster had all the earmarks of its class. The motor had some eye-catching accessories. So did the front seat. Accident happens, there is emotional shock, and witnesses often form hasty judgments. In this case, they may have even been prejudiced, because the driver was a hot rodder. The girl suffered critical injuries. She was taken to the hospital immediately. For the death of Phyllis Carter, Ted Miller was arraigned and charged with manslaughter. His salary as a mechanic had supported him and his widowed mother. He had no money to hire counsel, so I was appointed by the court to defend him. Are you sure you were on your side of the line at the time of the crash?
Of course I'm sure. That other guy, what's his name, Evans, he swerved into our lane. I kept thinking he'd pull over, but he didn't.
You had a distraction with you in the car. Are you sure you watched the road?
Yes, sir.
You had both hands on the wheel. You didn't have one arm
around Phyllis? I wish I had. I'd have held her. She wouldn't have been thrown from the car. She'd still be alive.
There's nothing we can do about that, Ted. But we can try to take the blame off your shoulders.
That won't be easy. Remember, I'm a hot rodder. I've got 2 strikes against me the minute I get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I know. Hot rodders aren't very popular with the general public. Why is that, Ted?
People just don't understand. They blame us for a lot of things we don't do.
In what way?
They think we're like those screwdrivers. The crazy guys who race on city streets and play chicken and do wild driving stunts. We don't do anything like that. We've got rules.
I didn't know that, Ted.
With Mr. Matthews, I've never been in any kind of trouble. Why don't you look at my pal, Jerry Goodwin? He's president of our club, the Dragons. He'll tell you about me. He'll tell you what kind of guys the real hot rodders are. When you talk to him, Mr. Matthews, he's at 627 South Elm Street.
Jerry Goodwin? I'll do it right away, Ted. Are you Jerry Goodwin?
Yeah?
I'm Bart Matthews of the Public Defender's Office. I'd like to talk to you about...
Mr. Matthews, how's Ted? Gee, I sure hope you're going to be able to get him off all right. He'd never do a thing like that.
I hope you're right, Jerry. Tell me, Jerry, I'm interested, well, just what makes a hot rodder?
I guess we're just a bunch of fellas that happen to be crazy about motors. Some guys go for baseball or ice hockey. We go for hot rods.
Sounds like an interesting hobby.
Oh, it's more than that. You see, we try to improve our cars, get the most out of the motor.
You mean more speed?
Not just that. We're after efficiency. And, you know, some of the ideas of hot rodders show up in the big tracks, like the Indianapolis Speedway, and even in your family car.
Oh, I didn't realize.
That's just it. The public doesn't. Hey, let me show you something. You see these twin exhausts?
Yeah?
Pipes, we call them. Ted and I installed them. Every car with a V8 engine ought to have twin pipes.
Why?
Because they eliminate back pressure, let the motor breathe easier. It's more efficient and more economical. Detroit knows that, and Detroit's beginning to put dual exhaust on all their V8 cars as factory equipment.
Remarkable.
You want to hear something that sounds pretty?
Yeah, sure.
We call that wrapping them up. Like it? Oh. Will you cut out all that racket? I'm sorry, Mr. Logan.
Do you have to tune that motor all day? You're making my dogs nervous.
Look, I was just giving this gentleman a demonstration.
Well, go demonstrate someplace else. You ought to be run off the streets. All you hot rod pests. And that friend of yours, that Miller. Yeah. I hope they throw the book at him.
Well, what did he ever do to you?
He's a menace. A maniac, always speeding through the city streets.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah?
Did you ever see this Ted Miller speeding?
Well,
Well, did you?
no. No, not exactly. But he's a hot rodder, and they all do.
Oh, I see. Guilt by association, eh?
No.
He's pretty sour. You see, one of his dogs got run over, and naturally he blames it on a hot rodder.
Yeah, I guess you guys have a lot of trouble.
We sure have. And we get the blame for all the trouble caused by the squirrels, those screwdrivers.
Yeah, Ted told me a little bit about them.
Ted's one of the best. Why, we haven't had to set him down once.
Set him down.
Our club regulates its members. When one of them goofs, breaks a driving rule, we punish him.
Well, that makes sense.
Look, why don't you come to our meeting tonight? Then you can get an idea for yourself just what kind of guys belong to hot rod clubs. It'll be at Sergeant Foley's home.
Sergeant?
Police Sergeant Ed Foley, Traffic Division. He's a swell guy. Helped us organize. And he works with us.
Well, I guess if I'm going to educate the jury in Ted's case, I'd better educate myself first. I'll be there, Jerry.
Swell. Hank? Okay, Hank. So you ran a red light. It's your first offense, but you know the club rules. Half of what you were fined. Feed the dragon, fella.
They get it coming and going, don't they? And it's pretty effective. They seldom get tickets. Well, then they can't be the menace that some people say they are. I'll vouch for that. The reason we have an organized hot rod club is for the boys to let off steam at a safe and sane, controlled speed strip. Ever see a drag race?
No, I haven't.
There'll be one Sunday. Why don't you come with me and take a look?
Thanks, I'd like to. You know, you sure have opened my eyes as far as these boys are concerned. But right now I need something more than that. Hard facts. Visiting the scene of the accident was about as helpful as studying the sky with a telescope to find out why a plane had crashed the day before. But I did find one little item, a parking lot stub. On it were the usual figures, the last 3 numbers of a car license. The numbers corresponded to those on Evan's license plate. Not much to go on, but I kept it. You never know. You never know about witnesses either, not until you talk to them.
Pardon me, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm Bart Matthews, Public Defender's Office. I'm making some inquiries about an automobile accident that happened on the highway down there the other night. I wonder if you could give me any information.
Well, if you're defending that kid, you've got a hard row to hoe. Of course, after all said and done, it was his fault.
Well, what makes you so sure?
I was a witness.
Will you mind telling me just what you witnessed?
No, I don't mind. But I know that kid was to blame, because he was speeding like a madman.
Well, that's strange. If he was speeding, there would be tire tracks, skid marks on the pavement, and there weren't any.
Well, I don't know nothing about that.
How did you actually see the 2 cars collide?
No, but I got ears. I could tell he was speeding by the roar of the motor.
And what were you doing when you heard the roar of the motor?
Well, I just started up this pump here for the night irrigation.
This pump?
Yes, sir.
Do you mind starting it again, sir?
Nope.
Rather loud Now, would you testify under oath that you heard the roar of the Miller boy's car above the gentle purr of your pump?
Well, maybe. Couldn't be positive. But there's one thing I'm sure of. Hot rod kids like that Miller, they cause most of the accidents. Those kids fix up those cars to do 100 miles an hour or more. And they aim to drive them that fast.
Oh, that doesn't necessarily follow, sir. Why, right here I have the necessary weapons to commit assault and battery. But I don't, no matter how strong the temptation. That next Sunday, I went down to see the hot rodders in action. It was a thrill to see the kids out there in the open, far from the city traffic. Quite a show. Sergeant Foley explained the setup to me. Hiya, Sergeant.
Hi, Mr. Matthews. Glad to see you. We had this abandoned airstrip set aside and fixed up for our drag races. These meets are police-sponsored and carefully supervised. That's one of my jobs.
And a good job.
Works out fine. Gives the kids a chance to find out how many horses they got under their hoods in a safe and sane way. All these cars are carefully inspected before they're entered in the races. And it pays off. We've never had a fatality. Here's where the boys match know-how against know-how and motor against motor. Not on the city streets like in the old days.
Well, they really move.
Pretty thrilling, isn't it? You see, the idea is this. The drivers get a standing start and run a quarter-mile course to see how high a speed they can reach at the finish. It's an acceleration test.
It was an exciting performance. Sort of completed the hot rod picture for me. Quite a sport, drag racing. But I had work to do. The Miller case involves still another sport. So I caught the last few innings of a good ball game. The man in blue behind the plate was umpire Gil Evans. I'd talked to him once before about the crash. He'd been aloof, irritable, uncooperative. But he wasn't much better this time.
Look, Mr. Matthews, I call him like I see him, and that kid was dead wrong. Looked like he deliberately swerved and hit me. I could have been killed.
And you were on your way back from Valley Center at the time of the accident?
I was.
Were you there on business?
If I was, it was my own business. You must know I just went through the town. I was out for the drive.
I see. And you didn't stop? You didn't park at all?
No, I didn't park. But what's all this got to do with the accident?
Maybe nothing. Thanks, Mr. Evans.
Yeah. Sorry I couldn't help you.
Don't be sorry. Maybe you had. From Evans' manner, he was obviously trying to hide something. I headed for Valley Center, a busy little town 10 miles from the city. I didn't have much to go on. A stub from a parking lot. Now, this is from your parking lot, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, I wonder if you would have the check corresponding to this in your files.
Well, let's take a look. No, it's not in that batch either. I'm afraid I can't help you. We don't keep these old stubs very long.
Well, I'm only interested in the stubs from one particular day, the 15th.
Oh, that batch is probably here. Let's see. What was that serial number again?
666.
Well, these are from the 15th, all right. Here we are. Yep, they match.
Thank you very much. I knew now that Evans had lied. Why? Where had he been while his car was parked? The attendant told me most of his customers visited the Valley Medical Center. The possibility that Evans might have been one of them started me on an office-to-office check. On the second floor, I found what I was after. Evans had been there, and on a rather ironic visit. Now I understood one reason for his evasiveness.
I certainly appreciate all you're trying to do for me.
Our office is doing everything possible to clear you, Ted.
If you don't, all my plans will be tossed in the junk heap.
Suppose you tell me about your plans.
Well, I've been planning to become a racing driver, a professional. Daytona Beach, the Utah Salt Flats, maybe Indianapolis even. Fine chance I'd have. With a record of manslaughter,
Don't put your future too far behind you yet, Ted. I'm working on a lead that might be useful to us.
But, Mr. Matthews, it's getting late. The trial's coming up in a few days.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. A little worried, too. I haven't been able to contact the one man who just might be our star witness.
So what do we do?
Well, one thing, I can ask for a continuance of trial. Cheer up, Ted. I know that things look black for us. But maybe I can have the game called because of darkness.
I know how you feel, Bart. We're both working towards the same end, convicting the right man.
That's why I think we should ask for a continuance in this case. I think you've got the wrong one. Dan, I'm almost certain that if I can get in touch with this witness, we can settle this whole thing right here in your office without going to court.
Well, that's agreeable with me. It's just that we can't continue it indefinitely. You see, Bart, the pressure's on. We've got a crowded court calendar, and, well, the public's shouting for action. They want to make an example of this hot rodder.
Yeah, I know all of that too well. But in the interest of complete fairness, we've got to have a little more time.
All right. When can you produce your witness?
I wish I knew. Tomorrow, maybe? Today? Maybe right now, may I?
Oh, sure.
Hello? This is Matthews. Would you please get me Valley Center 9072? Thanks. You know, the most annoying part about the whole thing is that the day before I reached his office, my witness left town on vacation and purposely didn't leave word where he could be reached. And I... Hello? This is Matthews again. I'm sorry to bother you like this, but... Oh, you still haven't heard from him. I see. Well, if you do hear from him, have him get in touch with my office immediately, will you? Thanks. Well, that's that.
Well, Bart, do I understand you haven't even seen your important witness?
Yeah, right. And it's beginning to look like I never will see him until it's too late. Say, Dan, even if the court doesn't grant a delay, there is one person who could put a period to this whole thing, if he would. Thanks, Dan.
Sure. Come in.
Oh, it's you again.
Well, you don't seem very glad to see me, Mr. Evans.
I'm overjoyed, but I'm controlling it.
You mind if I ask you a few questions?
No, go ahead, as long as you don't expect answers.
Why don't you forget you're an umpire? Reverse your decision.
What decision?
Your decision not to tell about your business at Valley Center.
Why do you keep harping on Valley Center? I told you I didn't stop there. You're trying to pin something on me.
I'm just trying to get at the truth. You can make it easier for everyone if you tell exactly what happened.
I've told you all there is to tell. That Hot Rod Miller kid was to blame. They always are.
I'm not so sure that either one of you were responsible for that accident.
What do you figure?
Maybe there was a third person who had something to do with the Carter girl's death. Someone you know at Valley Center.
There you go, back to Valley Center again, huh? That's where I came in. I've got a game to work. You're really reaching, aren't you?
I just call him the way I see him. The day before the Miller trial was scheduled to begin, I got the good news that my missing witness was on his way back to the city. As I suspected, his business had been with some rainbow trout at a mountain hideaway. I called Dan Stewart immediately. Yeah, that's right, Dan. His office just got in touch with me. Certainly he'll be there.
I'll have Evans brought in. We better have the Miller boy, too.
We have nothing to lose, and we might gain a lot. Yeah, thanks again. Welcome in, Ted. This is Mr. Stewart, the Deputy District Attorney.
Hello, Ted.
I still don't understand. Why are we here?
Well, you see, Ted, Mr. Stewart and I are on the same side, the side of justice. We just approach it from the opposite direction, that's all.
Mr. Matthews here believes he can clear you. Yes?
Mr. Evans to see you.
Send him in.
Come in, Mr. Evans. This is Mr. Stewart, Deputy District Attorney.
Hello, Mr. Evans.
Oh, of course, you know Mr. Miller.
Yeah, we've met.
I'll say we...
Take it easy, Ted.
Fresh kid, aren't you?
Have a seat, Mr. Evans.
How long has this going to take? This is my day off. I've got things to do.
We'll try to keep it short. Mr. Evans, you deny that you stopped at Valley Center just before the accident.
I do.
I know that you did stop. And why? And I can prove it. How? Very simple. A parking lot stub is very revealing. And I also talked to someone at the office you visited.
Okay, so you know.
Why did you lie about it, Mr. Evans?
Well, why wouldn't I? I'm a baseball umpire, and I take enough abuse from the crowd as it is. They'd laugh me off the field if they knew I was being examined for glasses.
Glasses? Oh, so that's it, huh?
That's why I slipped into Valley Center where I'm not known. But there's nothing wrong with my vision.
That remains to be proved.
Yes?
I'm sending Dr. Todd in.
Oh, good.
Hello, Doctor. I'm Matthews, public defender. Dr. Todd, Deputy District Attorney Stewart.
Doctor?
I believe you've already met Mr. Evans, and this is Mr. Miller.
How do you do, gentlemen? My office said this was rather urgent. What can I do for you?
Won't you sit down, Doctor?
Thank you.
I believe that you can straighten something out for us.
Oh?
You are an eye specialist.
That's right, an ophthalmologist.
Now, on the 15th of this month, did you examine Mr. Evans' eyes?
Yes, I made such an examination. Let me check the date. I brought his record as you asked. The 15th, 6 p.m.
Now, Doctor, and this is rather important. Does Mr. Evans have good eyesight?
Yes, very good. 20/20 vision. What did I tell you?
Or do you mean that he could drive a car safely?
Of course. I merely prescribed reading glasses for him. Otherwise, his eyes are fine.
Good try, Bart. Not good enough. Afraid you were wrong.
Now, can I get out of here?
Oh, just a minute. I understand that quite often in testing a patient's eyes, the pupils are dilated with a drug called homatropine.
Correct. It enables us to tell how the eye muscles accommodate themselves to varying distances.
And was this drug used in Mr. Evans' case?
Yes.
And would this in any way impair his vision?
Indeed it would. For some time after. The patient's eyesight is very faulty. Poor resolution, blurred.
And could he drive a car safely?
Emphatically, no. I always caution my patients against driving for at least a couple of hours.
Well, this is one patient who didn't obey your instructions. He was involved in an accident shortly after leaving your office.
But I'm not guilty.
That's right, Ted. Mr. Evans admitted that he was wrong, which is quite a concession coming from an umpire. He was tried and found guilty of manslaughter and misdemeanor, and was placed on 5 years probation. As for Ted Miller, he was completely cleared. At Ted's invitation, I went down that Sunday to see the drag races again. It was a real thrill to watch those hot rodders letting off steam like that under police supervision. Ted was back behind the wheel again, and he did all right. They made me an honorary official. I think I'd better stop going to these drag races, or I'll start hopping up my own car pretty soon. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender.